I was washing blood out of my kitchen towel when my brother finally told me why the police were looking for him. "They think I caused the accident," Ryan said. He stood in the middle of my laundry room, soaked from the rain, shaking so hard his teeth clicked together. His left sleeve was torn. There was a purple bruise rising under one eye, and he kept looking toward the back door like someone might come through it at any second. I stared at him, holding the towel under the faucet. "What accident?" he swallowed. "The one that killed Mom and Dad." For a moment, I thought I had misheard him. My parents had died 3 weeks earlier when their car went off County Road 19 and hit a drainage culvert. The police had called it a tragic accident. Wet pavement, bad visibility, my father driving too fast in a storm. That explanation had been painful, but simple. Now my brother was standing in my house at 11:30 at night telling me it might not have been simple at all. "Ryan," I said slowly, "why would they think you caused it?" "Because somebody told them I was there." My hand went still beneath the running water. "Were you?" His eyes filled. "No," he said it too quickly. That should have been my first warning, but Ryan was my baby brother, 7 years younger. The kid I had packed lunches for when Mom worked double shifts. The kid who used to crawl into my bed during thunderstorms and ask me to tell him stories until he fell asleep. So when he said, "I need somewhere to stay for one night," I did not call the police. I locked the back door. I gave him dry clothes, and I made the worst decision of my life. I hid him in my basement. At first, I told myself I was only giving him time to calm down. Ryan said a detective had come to his apartment that afternoon asking questions. He said the detective already had his mind made up. He said someone had lied and put him near the scene. I panicked, he told me. I knew if they brought me in, they'd twist everything. "What everything?" He rubbed his face. "I borrowed money from Dad. That part did not shock me. Ryan had always needed rescuing. Rent, car repairs, credit cards. Promises that this was the last time." "How much?" I asked. He looked away. 20,000. I almost laughed because the number felt too absurd to fit inside my kitchen. "Dad gave you $20,000. He loaned it to me." "For what?" "A business thing." That was Ryan's favorite phrase. A business thing. It could mean anything from a failed landscaping idea to a crypto scheme he barely understood. "Did Mom know?" He shook his head. "No, Dad said not to tell her." That part sounded wrong. My parents had fought about money plenty of times, but they had never hidden it from each other. Not the big things. "When did he give it to you?" I asked. Ryan's mouth tightened. "The week before they died." There it was, the first crack. My father had loaned Ryan $20,000 1 week before he and my mother died in a crash, and Ryan had not mentioned it once while we planned their funeral. I wanted to ask more, but he started crying. Not dramatic crying. Quiet, exhausted crying. The kind that made me remember him at 9 years old, sitting on the curb with a scraped knee, trying not to make a sound. So I stopped pushing. I gave him a blanket. I told him he could sleep downstairs. Then I went to my bedroom, locked the door, and sat awake until sunrise. The next morning, Detective Harrow came to my house. I watched him through the front window as he stepped out of an unmarked sedan and glanced toward my driveway. Ryan's old truck was not there. He had parked 2 streets over and walked through the alley like a fugitive. Which, I had to admit, he was beginning to resemble. Detective Harrow was polite when I opened the door. "Miss Voss?" "Yes." "I'm sorry to bother you. I'm looking for your brother." I forced my face to stay blank. "I haven't seen him since the funeral." The lie came out easier than I expected. That scared me. The detective studied me for 1 second too long. "If he contacts you, tell him it would be better for him to come involuntarily." "Is he in trouble?" "We just have questions." "What kind of questions?" He handed me his card. "The kind that become harder to answer the longer he runs." After he left, I stood in the entryway with that card in my hand, feeling like the house itself had gone quiet around me. Then the basement door creaked open. Ryan came up pale and barefoot. "Was it him?" "Yes, what did you say?" I said I hadn't seen you. His shoulders collapsed with relief, but I felt no relief at all. I said, "Ryan, tell me the truth. Were you anywhere near Mom and Dad that night?" "No." "Then why run?" "Because I had a fight with Dad that morning." I closed my eyes. "What kind of fight?" He wanted the money back. Why? Ryan looked toward the window. Because Mom found out. That was the second crack. According to Ryan, Mom had found out about the loan, exploded, and demanded Dad get the money back. Ryan said Dad called him furious. Ryan said they argued. Ryan said Dad threatened to report him for fraud. Fraud? I asked. Ryan flinched. It wasn't fraud. What wasn't fraud? He stared at the floor. I used Dad's name on some paperwork. I felt something cold move through my chest. What paperwork? A loan application. You took out a loan in Dad's name? No, not exactly. He was a guarantor. Did he know that? Ryan did not answer. That silence told me more than any confession could have. I walked away from him because I was afraid of what I might say. In the kitchen, I gripped the counter and tried to breathe. This was no longer about whether Ryan had borrowed money. This was about my father discovering that his own son had used him, and then my father died before he could do anything about it. Ryan followed me. I didn't kill them, Natalie. I turned around. It was the first time he had said the word kill. I didn't ask that. You were thinking it. I was. God help me, I was. That afternoon, I went to my parents' house. I told Ryan I needed clothes from Mom's closet for donation. That was half true. The real reason was sitting like a stone in my stomach. I needed to know what Mom had found. Their house still smelled like lemon cleaner and Dad's coffee. For 10 minutes, I stood in the hallway unable to move. Then I went into the den. Dad had kept every important paper in a metal filing cabinet beside his desk. Insurance, taxes, car titles, warranties for appliances they no longer owned. I searched the top drawer first. Nothing. Then the second. Nothing. In the bottom drawer, tucked behind a folder labeled Home Repairs, I found an envelope with Ryan's name on it. Inside were photocopies of loan documents. My father's signature was on every page, but the signature was wrong. Not wildly wrong, not cartoonishly forged. Just wrong enough that I noticed because I had seen my father sign birthday cards, checks, school forms, and permission slips my whole life. The letters were too careful. My father wrote fast, impatiently. His signature always leaned forward like it was late for something. This one stood straight up. Behind the loan papers was a handwritten note from my mother. I read it 3 times before I understood it. Ask Ryan why Ellis Road camera shows his truck following us. I sat down hard in Dad's chair. Ellis Road was 2 miles from where my parents crashed. Ryan had said he was never there. Mom had written that his truck followed them. I took a picture of the note. Then I heard a car door outside. For one wild second, I thought it was Ryan. But when I looked through the blinds, I saw Detective Harrow walking up the driveway. I put the envelope back exactly where I had found it and opened the door before he could knock. "Miss Voss," he said, "I thought I might find you here." Why? Because people usually come back to the place where the answers are. I did not like how calmly he said it. He asked if he could come in. I said no. He nodded like he had expected that. Then he said, "Your mother called us the day before she died." My throat tightened. What? She didn't file a report. She asked questions. What kind of questions? About what someone should do if a family member forged a signature. The porch seemed to tilt beneath me. I thought of Ryan downstairs in my house, wearing my husband's old sweatshirt, eating soup from my bowls, asking me to trust him. Detective Harrow watched my face. "You didn't know? It was not a question." "No," she sounded scared, he said gently. Not of paperwork, of what would happen when she confronted him. I drove home with both hands clamped to the steering wheel. Ryan was sitting at my kitchen table when I walked in. He had showered. He looked younger with wet hair and my oversized sweatshirt hanging off his shoulders. For 1 second, I wanted to pretend I had found nothing. Then he said, "Where were you?" "At Mom and Dad's." His face changed. "Not much, enough." "What did you find?" he asked. I set my purse down. "You tell me, Natalie, why did Mom write that your truck followed them on Ellis Road?" He stood up so fast the chair scraped backward. "She wrote that?" "Yes." His hand went to his mouth. And for the first time since he arrived, his fear looked real, not fear of being caught. Fear of something else. "I didn't follow them," he said. "Ryan?" "I swear to God, I didn't. I sold the truck 2 days before the accident." I stared at him. "What?" "I sold it for cash. I needed money. I didn't tell anyone because Dad would have lost it." "Who did you sell it to?" He looked sick. A man named Graham? Graham who? I don't know. He answered the listing online, paid cash, took the title. You sold your truck to a stranger, didn't tell anyone, and now that same truck may have followed Mom and Dad before they died? I know how it sounds. No, Ryan. I don't think you do. He grabbed his phone from the counter and pulled up old messages. There they were, a listing. A buyer asking if the truck was still available. A meeting at a gas station. Cash price. The buyer's profile name was Graham P., no photo, no last name. Ryan looked at me with desperate eyes. That's why I ran. The detective said my truck was near the crash. I thought if I told him I sold it, he'd ask why. Then the loan would come out. The signature. Everything? So you let them think you might have caused our parents' accident? I panicked. You always panic after you make everyone else pay for your choices. He recoiled like I had slapped him. I wanted to feel sorry. I did not. That was the midpoint of the whole nightmare. Until then, I had believed Ryan was either guilty or framed. Now I understood the truth was worse. Ryan might not have caused the accident, but everything that led to it had started with him. The forged loan, the hidden debt, the truck sold for cash. The lies stacked so high that when our parents died, no one could see the truth through them. That night, I did not sleep. I searched Ryan's messages again while he sat across from me, silent and ashamed. The buyer had used a prepaid number. No last name, no email, nothing useful. Then I noticed something in the gas station message. Graham had written, I can meet by the west pumps near the old service entrance. Not the front pumps, not the register, the old service entrance. A stranger would not know that gas station had an old service entrance unless he had been there before. I drove there the next morning. Ryan begged to come with me. I said no. The gas station manager did not want to help until I told her my parents had died and my brother's truck might have been involved. Her face softened. She checked the date Ryan sold the truck. The security footage was gone, 30 days only, but the manager remembered something. That old blue pickup, she said, guy who bought it wore a ball cap, paid cash. I remember because he asked if the cameras worked out back. My skin prickled. Did he come inside? Yeah, bought coffee. Did he pay with a card? She hesitated. Then she printed the receipt. The card name was not Graham. It was Paul Renner. I knew that name. Paul Renner worked with my father. He had come to our house for barbecues when I was a teenager. He sent flowers to the funeral. He hugged me beside my mother's casket and told me my father had been like a brother to him. I sat in my car with the receipt in my lap and felt the story change shape again. This was not a stranger. This was someone close enough to know my parents. Close enough to know Ryan was desperate. Close enough to buy his truck and use it. But why? When I told Ryan, he looked blank. Then he whispered, No, you know him. Dad talked to him about the loan. How do you know? Because Paul called me after Dad found out. He said Dad was making noise at work, saying he might need a lawyer. Paul told me to fix it before Dad ruined me. I grabbed the edge of the table. And you didn't think to mention that? I didn't know Paul bought the truck. What else did he know? Ryan's voice broke. Everything. Piece by piece, it came out. Ryan had gone to Paul for help when the loan company started calling. Paul had helped him clean up the application. Paul had told him which lender would move fast. Paul had even suggested using Dad as guarantor because my father had good credit and retirement savings. Ryan insisted Paul said Dad would never have to know. That was a lie only Ryan was foolish enough to believe. So Paul helped you commit fraud, I said. Ryan covered his face. Yes. And when Dad found out Paul was exposed too, Ryan nodded. That answered why Paul was involved, but not why my parents were dead. The next question was the one I was afraid to ask. What did Mom and Dad know when they got in that car? Ryan looked up. Mom knew about the loan. Dad knew Paul helped. They were going to meet him. My breath caught. The night they died, Ryan nodded. Dad texted me. He said, we're giving Paul one chance to explain before I call the police. Show me. I deleted it. Of course he had. Why? Because after they died, I thought it made me look guilty. I stood there looking at my brother, and for the first time in my life, I did not see the boy I raised. I saw a grown man who had burned every bridge and then cried because he was surrounded by smoke. I called Detective Harrow. Ryan begged me not to. I called anyway. When the detective arrived, Ryan did not run. He sat at my kitchen table with his hands folded and told the truth badly, haltingly, with shame catching in his throat. He admitted to the forged loan. He admitted to selling the truck. He admitted Paul Renner had helped him. Detective Harrow listened without interrupting. Then he asked one question. "Did Paul know your parents were coming that night?" Ryan nodded. "Yes." The detective's jaw tightened. That was when I realized he had suspected this already. He was not chasing Ryan because he believed Ryan was the only answer. He was chasing Ryan because Ryan was the missing link. 2 days later, Detective Harrow called me. They had found the truck. It was parked behind an abandoned equipment shed 8 miles outside town. The plates had been removed. The inside had been wiped down, but not well enough. There were traces of my father's car paint on the front bumper. Not enough to prove murder by itself. Enough to prove contact. The official accident report changed. My parents had not simply gone off the road. Their car had been struck from behind on the curve. I sat on my bathroom floor after that call and sobbed into a towel because grief felt new again. The first time, I had grieved an accident. This time, I grieved a betrayal. A week later, they arrested Paul Renner. He denied everything. He said he bought the truck for parts. He said he never met my parents that night. He said my father was unstable, angry, confused. Then Detective Harrow found the final layer. It was not in the truck. It was not in Paul's house. It was in my mother's phone. For weeks, I had avoided listening to her voicemails because hearing her voice felt unbearable. Detective Harrow asked for permission to examine the phone fully, and I gave it. There was one deleted audio file recovered from the cloud. My mother had recorded the meeting, not the crash. The meeting before it, her voice shook, but it was clear. "Paul, we know what you did." Then my father. "You used my son. You put my name on a loan. You're going to tell the lender the truth, or I go to the police tonight." Paul's voice answered, low and furious. "You think anyone will believe you? Your son signed half of it himself." Then my mother said the words that explained everything. "We know about the other accounts too. Other accounts. That was the deepest truth. Ryan had not been Paul's only victim. Paul had used my brother's desperation as practice. He had been opening fraudulent accounts through clients and coworkers for years. My father had found irregularities at work while trying to untangle Ryan's loan. My parents had not died because of Ryan's debt alone. They had died because they discovered Paul's entire scheme. Ryan had lit the match. Paul had burned down the house. At the trial, Ryan testified. I watched him walk to the stand in a gray suit that did not fit and tell a courtroom exactly how weak he had been. He did not make excuses. Not that day. He told them he forged our father's signature. He told them Paul helped. He told them he lied to me. He told them he hid because he was more afraid of consequences than he was committed to the truth. Paul stared at him with pure hatred. Ryan never looked away. The recording did the rest. So did the truck. So did the paint transfer. So did the financial records investigators uncovered after they knew where to look. Paul was convicted. Ryan was not charged in my parents' deaths, but he did not walk away clean. He pleaded guilty to fraud. He served time, not as much as Paul, more than he expected. The day Ryan was sentenced, he turned around before the bailiff led him away. "I'm sorry," he said to me. For once, he did not ask me to fix anything. That was the first apology of his I believed. I did not forgive him then. I am not sure forgiveness works like a door you open all at once. Sometimes it is more like a room you stand outside for years, deciding whether you are strong enough to go in. After the trial, I sold my parents' house. I kept 3 things: my mother's recipe box, my father's old watch, and the note Mom had written before she died. Ask Ryan why Ellis Road camera shows his truck following us. For a long time, I hated that note because it was the beginning of everything I did not want to know. Now I keep it because it reminds me of something painful and true. Love is not the same as blindness. Family does not mean hiding someone from the truth, and the people we love can break our hearts without being the only villain in the story. My brother begged me to hide him from the police. I did. For one night, I chose blood over truth. Then the truth showed me what blood had already cost. And when I finally stopped protecting Ryan from consequences, I found the man who destroyed my family.